Good morning, everybody. I'm Joe Neighbour from Signal Centre, and today I'll be running through a quick earnings preview of some of the big name stocks that will be reporting in the US next week. So on Monday we have Tesla, Tuesday we have Google and Apple, Wednesday we have Facebook, and on Thursday we have Amazon. So there we have five enormous names that will be reporting, and obviously they're always very well watched because people love the stories behind these stocks, and of course they've yielded huge returns for investors as well. So let's have a quick look at where we think some of the charts are potentially positioning themselves ahead of these earnings announcements next week, and whether or not there'll be any opportunities for investors to try and buy a dip or maybe even take profit on a big surge in price. In terms of an update on where indices are at the moment, yesterday we had the ECB policy decision, and that was close to market expectations, but there was a pledge for more accommodative policy over the medium term, which has supplied underlying support for equity markets. And during the day, global conditions were also pretty supportive as well. We saw a lot of upside in most of the markets. We saw DAX up 0.6%. We saw the CAC up 0.25%. The FTSE was a little bit flat. There was a few coronavirus reservations dampening expectations there, and there was a retreat of 0.4%. But in terms of the US, they were a little bit hampered to some extent by the higher than expected jobless claims data, but overall confidence did remain firm. So let's get stuck into the charts. First up, we've got Tesla, who are reporting on Monday. Now, as you can see from the daily chart that I've got in front of you here, I've drawn on some sort of wedge or triangle pattern using the red lines. Price has been sort of consolidating within this range, having hit the previous all-time highs back in January now. When we saw that huge move to the upside accompanied with Bitcoin as well. Obviously, Elon Musk taking a pretty large position in Bitcoin with Tesla money. And since then, price, as I say, has been consolidating, not really moving anywhere fast. But as we look at this price action in the very near term, what we can see within these blue lines is a range form in the price between 623 to 700. Now, this for me would be quite pivotal on Monday. A break to the upside, and I think we will look to a continuation higher in price. We'll be breaking out of this consolidation triangle. If we get a break to the downside, then we know that buyers love this stock and they will be probably quite supportive, but we could potentially see some move to the downside to fill this unfilled gap at 563. So down here, I think we'll be expecting to see some buyers step back in, but alternatively, we could see buyers also step in on a break above this consolidation pattern. So either way, there are potential opportunities that could come from the earnings announcement next week. Obviously, if there's any huge move or big move in volatility to the downside, and we break out throughout this out of this triangle to the downside, then I would be looking to take stock again and have a rethink rather than trying to dive in and try and catch a falling knife on that one. So I'd be looking to be a buyer probably down to 563 on Tesla. But in terms of on the upside, I think if we break that 700, then we could see a continuation higher over the short to medium term. So I think you'd be quite safe potentially buying a breakout above that level as well. On to Tuesday's announcements. So we've got Google and Apple. Nothing wrong with the Google chart whatsoever. It's trading in a really nice bullish channel, as you can see here, marked out by those red lines on my daily chart. No issues with that whatsoever. Trading up at all-time highs. Pre-market suggests we're going to be opening higher as well today ahead of those earnings next week. In terms of support, 24.52 is what I've got drawn on the lines on the charts at the moment. I think if we see a pullback down to that kind of level, I think you'll see buying support. It would marry up nicely with the uptrend channel potentially, but also a nice horizontal support on offer from these previous swing highs back here on the 28th of July. Actually, when we saw the last earnings announcement as well. So for me, I'd be a buyer on dips on Google. If in fact you do get any dips, we'll have to wait and see what these numbers say on Tuesday. But if there is any dip towards that sort of 24.58, 24.60 level, then I think you'll see buy support return. Onto Apple. Again, no real concerns here. We were in a large consolidation phase, but we've broken up to new highs, and we did that on the 9th of July. We've pushed up as high as $150. We've seen a little bit of a pullback. to retest that new support, having broken out above those highs that we posted back in January. Again, around the last sort of, well, when we saw earnings back in January, in fact. When we saw earnings back in April, we did see a dip in price. So we did initially make new highs before then retreating. And that correction just provided opportunity for value for shareholders to get back in. So in terms of value areas for me today, or for next week, in fact, 136.84, I've got some nice support there. We've also got an unfilled gap in and around that level as well. So I'd be looking really, if there is any sort of pullback in shares, the share price around about that area, to potentially pick some up for a continuation move to the upside. So then moving on to Wednesday, we have Facebook. And again, this looks pretty healthy. We are trading in a bit of a channel, which has been in place since March. We did see a swing low posted there on the 19th of July. So that's a line in the sand for us and forms a nice support. And that's at 334.5. So for me, it looks as though we're going to try and challenge those previous highs. If we look at where the pre-market is, it's already looking quite buoyant, and that's there by that orange level there. The pre-market price is at 360. So suggesting we're going to be making new highs on the open from Facebook. This is the key level for me in the short term. As provided this remains in place, then there is obviously continuation expectations for price to move higher. The overall trend remains very strong, and no concerns about that. But I'm not sure I'll be chasing it up at new all-time highs. It's not generally a strategy I employ, but I would be probably a buyer on dips towards these 335-ish kind of zone if there is to be any weakness when the results are announced on Wednesday. Over to Thursday, we've got Amazon. So this will be obviously well watched as always, but looks really quite nice from a technical perspective. So we were trading in a range here, as you can see, which has been demonstrated with these yellow bands. Highs of 35.48, lows of 28.80. We saw a nice break to the upside, a really impulsive move actually, a gap higher, a really strong move up, before then topping out at highs of 37.73. In recent days, we've seen a nice pullback. We filled that gap that we created, as you can see just there on the 19th of July, and then we've continued to push to the upside. Price expected to be a little bit higher on the open today, around about 36.50, but I think, you know, in and around this zone here, 3500, probably represents good value to continue buying. I don't see any reason why this is going to reverse anytime soon. We all know what a juggernaut Amazon is. I mean, if we do break back below into this range, then maybe I'd be a bit concerned and probably want to give that a little bit of breathing space, because there is the potential for it to drop down to the lower ends of this channel, which come in around about 2900. So all in all, they all look pretty good and pretty strong, as we all come to expect from these US shares. But obviously be careful, because earnings can be a bit of a lottery and can create a lot of volatility. But lots to look forward to next week in the equity space. Hopefully this has given you a bit of an insight and help into how you can approach your own strategy when trading these equities. And until the next time, trade safe everyone, and have a great weekend. Bye bye.